who is a Saudi activist, dissident, and academic at George Washington University. His father has been imprisoned in Saudi Arabia since 2017 and is currently on death row. And so he's talking with us about the situation in Saudi Arabia right now. It's been just a week since 84-year-old King Salman was hospitalized, and word was coming out that likely by year's end, if not sooner, as soon as possibly the coming month, that Mohammed bin Salman, or better known as MbS, might take the throne. Can you just bring us up to speed a little bit on this? I know that King Salman's surgery went really well, but so what does that mean? Is it still very likely that MbS will be taking over?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for hosting me this second time. I really enjoyed the first time, and I'm going to enjoy this as well. Well, just a bit of a background. During when MbS became a crown prince, it was widely thought that he is using the father as an air cover, if we may say, to to be there if he wants to attribute some decisions, if he wants to, for example, issue some measures, but at the same time do not want to own them, he will easily say it's the king, and he did that many times in the past. That was really helpful. That was to him. I mean, to his power as a crown prince. He is the de facto ruler, but at the same time, he can pick and choose some measures, decisions that some people may not like, maybe the people of Saudi Arabia or people outside, and just easily, pin it on the king, blame it on the king, saying, "Oh, the king did this and did that, and I have nothing to do with this." So, with the current situation now, his father is ailing, and his father is 83-year-old. He is sick, but not in a bad condition. It's widely also circulated that he has at least partial dementia. So now MbS, with all that, seeing his father getting sick and undergoing that surgery, I know from other sources. I mean, I actually heard from other sources disputing the whole surgery narrative, saying it's much worse than this, and it's probably heart surgery or a heart problem, but it was actually portrayed as gallbladder surgery in order to make it easier for the family to be on board and to give a signal to the family that it's not serious, so they do not get hostile toward MbS, who is really controversial, not just among the Saudi people and people outside, but also among the family themselves. So that's probably the most update on the situation of the king and his his health.
So one of the things that I heard about why this might be happening now, and that was under the suggestion that this isn't fatal, what the king's health, is that they want a smooth transition, and also they don't want to be affected by the U.S. election, and so they're looking for a nice and smooth transition, but nothing about MbS's rise to power or his reign as the de facto ruler has been smooth, from the killing of Khashoggi to members of anyone he could think of as a rival. It hasn't been smooth at all. Exactly. Do you see any type of smooth transition of power?
Not at all. It's actually, I remember the first time that like it was like Khashoggi suggested, we talked about constitutional reforms in Saudi Arabia and political reforms and the need for political participation. I was talking to Jamal Khashoggi, and he suggested that I write that up and send it to the Washington Post, and I did. Like that was in March 2018, like about 6 or 7 months before he was killed. So in that piece, I said MbS is bringing Saudi Arabia back to the dark ages. And I was referring to the palace intrigues. I mean, remember, Saudi Arabia was never democratic. It was never, it was always authoritarian. But what MbS did is he brought it to another level of palace intrigue and dark ages kind of tricks. That was
under the guise of modernization.
Exactly, and he sold it like for some time to people, some people of Congress, some people in the West, some people locally, that he's a reformer, he's liberating women, he's doing this and that. So the kind of palace intrigues that we have seen in the past 3 years now are just amazing. That we have seen, for example, a personal guard to his father, the king, being killed in a very, very weird and vague circumstances, and it was billed later as a dispute among the guards themselves, where two personal guards of the king were killed. That was weird. I mean, in the circumstances, the whole narrative was weird. It never happened in Saudi Arabia. And then we have seen Game of Thrones among the family themselves, how MBN, the former crown prince, was arrested, how the prestigious Ahmed bin Aziz, who was returned to Saudi Arabia after the killing of Khashoggi, was also arrested a couple months ago. We have seen how things developed really, really quickly under not just under the watch of MbS, but actually with the orders of MbS. We have seen how he, for example, also alienated and also poisoned the relationship among the tribes, among the different elements and segments of the Saudi society, how he arrested prominent feminists and prominent scholars and prominent economists, and how he did that in the past 3 years, bringing the whole situation in Saudi Arabia to another level that we have not seen in I mean, since for centuries. So it's the answer to a question. Well, it was never smooth, but this level of lack of smoothness is just unprecedented. How he dealt with his own like small family, not just the royal family, but his brothers and sisters and his mother. Like the NBC, I remember the NBC a couple years ago reportedly said that his own mother was locked up by him because he was suspecting that his mother was not fully on board with him being in power, probably because she has seen during his childhood how unstable he was, how unhinged. So the idea is that he cracked in his own family. That's in his own mother, in his own, and putting that into context. Well, if you look and see how the father is ailing, how MbS now is desperately in need to be crowned, well, you can really suspect every move.
So for anybody who's watching who doesn't know, Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy. It has no form of parliament or democracy at all. It was founded, the current kingdom was founded in 1932. And since 1932,
it has always been ruled by a son of that founder until MbS, who's not even the oldest of his father's sons. What role do you think that plays in MbS's erraticness and these acts of terror? Really, arresting your family members and locking them up is really an act of terror. And how do you think that affects his legitimacy and how he's viewed in the kingdom, whether as legitimate or not?
Well, that's an excellent question. He is a paranoid person. He's always trying to be ahead of all the moves against him, and that actually was stemmed from the fact that he is aware of the lack of legitimacy that he's he's so paranoid about. So as you said, when the founder of current Saudi Arabia, King Abdulaziz, the grandfather of MbS and the father of the current King Salman, Abdulaziz, when he founded that, he was the first king after the founder was his son, King Saud, a brother of the current King Salman. And since then, it became a rule, it became a tradition among the royal family that the monarchy will be transferred from a brother to another brother. In another word, a kind of a monarchy usually described in the literature as horizontal. So it's not vertical. The thing that is new now to the kingdom, and it hasn't happened yet, is if we see a kind of transition not from a brother to a brother, but rather from a father to a son, like what we will, if things went the way MbS wanted, from King Salman to his son now, Mohammed bin Salman. So he knows that his rule is out of tradition. He knows that he is very, very disliked, not just among the Saudi families and among the Saudi people and among the international community, among the West, among the East, among everybody basically, but also
except Kushner.
Except
everyone but Kushner.
Yeah, who's in the pocket of MbS according to the Intercept leak. So he's aware of all that, and that's what pushed him toward this kind of paranoia and power. So he's always afraid, and that's why, for example, I don't know if you guys followed that news about the former Saudi spy who fled Saudi Arabia in 2015, and he hid in Canada now. And
that was my next question to you.
Well, yeah,
was about him, and maybe if you could describe his case as well. I know it was just in the New York Times, but
yes,
you could let our viewers know that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So this guy is his name is Saad al-Jabri. He was the head of counter terror operations in Saudi Arabia. He was he was right hand to the former Crown Prince Mohammed bin Naif. He was almost the unnamed minister of Interior in Saudi Arabia for a long time. And he was liked by many people, especially in the West, because he was soft-spoken, educated, and all that. But when he left Saudi Arabia in 2015, I mean, the incident was that there was a competition between MbS at that time and MBN. So MbS is Mohammed bin Salman, MBN is Mohammed bin Naif. And MBN was at that time the crown prince, and MbS was the deputy crown prince who deposed the crown prince MBN. So there was a competition at that time. MBN was not deposed yet. And Al-Jabri was very close to him. He was sent on a mission to the US, and he met with US officials. But what brought all this into the scene is when Saad Al-Jabri met secretly. That's the report in the news, secretly with the head of American intelligence at that time, John Brennan. And so the Deputy Crown Prince, MbS, went really crazy, and he assumed that was just to help some kind of transition from the king to the Crown Prince. Or at least because he was paranoid, he would interpret everything as a move against him. So he issued an order from the king, his father, to just to fire Saad Al-Jabri, this guy, the former minister and the former head of intelligence within the Ministry of Interior in Saudi Arabia. And since then, he hid in first in Turkey and then to the US. And when Trump was inaugurated, he went to Canada because probably he or people around him thought that it's not safe enough here in the US, and then he's in Canada right now. So that's basically the background of the story. What's new is that because now MbS is cracking down on the family, he's assuming that somebody with that level of power, with that level of intelligence, with that level of information about the family, the Saudi people, the Saudi system, hidden, abroad, is a threat to his absolute monarchy and a threat to him, and therefore he's going crazy with it. He's trying to leak to the news about him and that he's corrupt and he stole $11 billion or whatever money figures that they have. It's the same thing that when MbS in 2017 built the crackdown on his own family as purge on corruption. He's also doing the same exact thing this time, trying to bring back, lower Saad Al-Jabri to Saudi Arabia, and with that, I mean, to also blackmail Saad Al-Jabri, he arrested 2 of his own children, Omar and Sarah. And they were first banned from traveling, and then in last May they were arrested and never heard from, as far as I know, since then. So the idea, the new revelation is that there were some communications between MbS and Saad Al-Jabri, and Saad Al-Jabri, or his family at least, leaked some of these information and some of these communication to the press. And in one of them, MbS was saying to Saad Al-Jabri, talking about the children, when Saad Al-Jabri asked to lift the ban on the children, MbS responded back, well, we need to see you, and when I see you, I'll tell you what happened. And before I do that, we have to solve some issues. So he was clearly using the children to lower back Saad Al-Jabri. That's a classical quid pro quo, like the quid pro quo that we have seen.
Well, not just a quid pro quo. I mean, he might as well be giving him an invitation to the Saudi consulate in Turkey. Let's
Exactly.
just meet here. I have a hacksaw waiting to greet you with. I mean, who would take MbS up on this offer?
Exactly, and he offered the position to the guy. He said, literally, I need your help with the situation in Saudi Arabia. We need your experience. The same exact offer that was given to Jamal Khashoggi in 2018 from Saud al-Qahtani, who administered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. So I think it's a classical move by MbS. Come, I'll give you a position, I'll give you money, I'll give you this and that, and if this didn't work, well, the stick
I've got a hacksaw.
Exactly. Bone saw that will be sent to wherever you are, and
got your name on it.
Yeah. So that's actually the story of Saad al-Jabri, and it's I think it is also I mean, the lesson from the story of Saad al-Jabri is that see how MbS is now trying to follow Saad al-Jabri around, try to threaten him, threaten his children. And I heard that there was even an attempt to lower him directly. A friend of Saad al-Jabri was sent to him. A friend of this minister was sent to him in order to convince him to go somewhere so the Saudi government can put a hand on him. It's just crazy how the Saudi government now respects no border, respects no red lines, respects no sovereignty, respects no international law, no human rights law, nothing. It just operating in its own, like if it's really in the dark ages.
So Saudi Arabia, like the rest of the world, is dealing with coronavirus now. And they're also dealing with crashing oil prices, which have a hugely significant effect on the kingdom, as oil is the kingdom's main source of revenue, despite all of MbS's promises to modernize and move the country off of oil. And this has resulted in budget cuts and tax increases on Saudis. Yet MbS has been putting forth this vision called Vision 2030 of this modernized, still not in any way democratic, but modernized state to Westerners as proof that he's a reformer. Do you have any predictions as to where he might take this now, given these developments of coronavirus and crashing oil prices?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, speaking of the Saudi economy and the public investment fund, I just heard the news that there was an offer from the Saudi public fund, investment fund, the public investment fund, to take over Newcastle, the football team in the UK, as a part of one soft power, second investment to invest in the world. And it was really preposterous how people with everything MbS did and everything Saudi Arabia and the government did, they still can deal with him, they still do business with them. So I just heard the news right now that the deal, the takeover, is in a dead end, at least for now. So that's at least good news. Some people in the Premier League, at least, I mean, finally decided that it's wrong to have this power, the Saudi money into being poured into the Premier League in order to influence the public, in order to sport wash the games and the public. So going back to the question, well, yeah, he introduced the vision called 2030 in 2016. It was meant and proposed to diversify the Saudi economy, so the Saudi economy will not solely depend on oil. That was the idea, basically the idea, and he introduced measures. When it was first introduced, it was never. I mean, the Saudi public was never told that they will be paying the high price for all this. The Saudi family, the Saudi royal family is not. MbS is not. His father is not. The 1% elite is not. But rather, the Saudi public is going to pay the toll of all this through austerity measures, lifting the subsidies that have been in place for decades, and also lifting all the aids that have been in place for a very long time from the government, given the fact that the Saudi government is completely a rentier state that depends solely on the on one natural source, which is oil this time. And secondly, introducing taxes. I mean, this by itself is just marvelous. You see how taxes were introduced, but I mean, when they finally decided to diversify the Saudi economy, they went directly to the pockets of the citizens, to the pockets of the ordinary Saudis, and instead of trying to industrialize, trying to civilize, trying to advance technology, trying to do this and that, but rather they went directly to the pockets of the normal Saudis, which, by the way, affected the private sector, affected the market, affected how people live in Saudi Arabia. And that's why you see a lot of people are discontent in Saudi Arabia, regardless of what you see in Twitter, how the Saudi bots and Saudi automated account try to tell you and to say. So that was the vision. But the vision is installing so far. It's actually going through hard times, and it has a lot of flaws and problems. And I think by now even MbS himself realizes that. I mean, it's nothing really concrete from the idea that was introduced in 2016 to diversify the Saudi economy was really realized as promised. And I'll give you a quick example. The example of NEOM. NEOM is a project in the northern part of Saudi Arabia. It was supposed to be technologically driven, very advanced. I mean, it was Saudi people was promised that there will be reports, handling the whole city is going to be built completely on technology and all that. That was the idea. But to do that, they actually did what the Israeli Defense Forces did, which is occupying cities, displacing tribes, displacing indigenous people. And the case of a guy called Abdulrahim was really distinct. A guy who refused to leave his house. So they came to him, they asked him, he said, no, it's my house, I'm not selling this house. We are talking here about a small town called Al-Khurayba, a historical capital of the tribe of Al-Huwaitat, these people, this tribe in Saudi Arabia, in the northern part of Saudi Arabia. So he was asked to leave, he did not. And then special forces came to his house and they killed him in cold blood. It was shocking how ruthless this dictator is, and how far he's willing to go in order to implement a very controversial plan even. So that's the story of Al-Huwaitat and NEOM. And while this NEOM project is still controversial, the only thing that they succeeded in doing is that they built palaces. He built palaces for his father, the king, and for himself. And in some palaces, we hear leaked reports about Saud al-Qahtani and Ahmed Asiri, the two main characters implicated in the killing of Khashoggi, living in these palaces of NEOM. So that's what I mean. This is just an example of what the original promise of high technology, advanced, and then robots and all that, and then the actual, fact that what they did and they succeeded in doing in Neom specifically is these palaces and displacement of tribes and natives.
So speaking of displacement and brutal murder, the war in Yemen is now going on 6 years, and coronavirus has entered Yemen, and the death rate of coronavirus in Yemen is 25%, which is huge. And that's because Saudi Arabia has so decimated the country, has decimated its hospitals and healthcare system, and children are literally starving to death. I wonder what the Saudi public, the general public, what they know of the war in Yemen and the situation in Yemen, and if they know, is there public opinion that's known about that?
Yes, that's a very good question. So Yemen is, I mean, the situation in Yemen is totally disastrous. And remember, it's not just coronavirus. Before, I mean, years before coronavirus, there was, other viruses. There were, diseases, children being killed, women, civilians, whole cities being distracted. I mean, it's really horrible, the situation there. And for your question, whether the Saudi public and the public opinion, how they see this, well, at first there was kind of support to the war in Yemen. I mean, unfortunately, in 2015, when it first started, many people thought the whole war was just to fight against a militia that is, threatening the southern border of Saudi Arabia. That's how the media portrayed it in 2015. And the Saudi people also were promised it's going to be a quick fix, it's going to be a quick operation, it's going to be here 2 weeks. And there are statements like MbS himself said many times on the news, on the record, and he was caught on camera saying it's going to be few days or few weeks maximum. That's what he said. He said it's a quick operation. It's going just to be just to push all parties into negotiation. The current government and the Houthis and Ansarullah and Islah and all these parties, in order to push for real negotiation and diplomatic channels, we have to go into war just to show them that we are serious. That's how the war first, portrayed in the Saudi media. But I mean, days go and months and years now, with the devastating economic situation in Saudi Arabia, with the devastating humanitarian crisis, and how people see that now even their city is not as safe as they used to. They got rockets, and then they see themselves that they are themselves affected, not just the people of Yemen, children, women and all people there, but they themselves were affected personally, and each one of them is affected. Now, for years, the public opinion in Saudi Arabia started to shift, and I think now, but public opinion is not allowed in Saudi Arabia, so you cannot test, you cannot do that. But I am pretty sure if there will be any published report of the public opinion, you will see the vast majority of people now opposing the war and wanting a quick end to this disastrous war and humanitarian crisis in the south of Saudi Arabia. So it's disastrous. It's horrible from the humanitarian perspective, but also it is affecting the personal lives, not just of Yemenis, but also people of Saudi Arabia. And like this, even remember, like it's in the south border of Saudi Arabia. So even towns in the south have been affected the most. Saudi Arabia was actually, the Saudi government had to move people, tribes, and families from the south towns of the south toward more northern kind of cities and towns in order to make sure that they are not affected. But nonetheless, everybody's life is affected by the war.
So as we start to run out of time, I want to ask one final question.
Absolutely.
And last November at the Democratic presidential debates, Joe Biden vowed to make Saudi Arabia the pariah state that they are. He said there's, quote, very little social redeeming value in the present government in Saudi Arabia. And he promised during that time to end U.S. weapons sales for the Saudis' brutal war in Yemen. However, all of that was while Biden was competing with other candidates that were further to his left, such as Bernie Sanders, who's been very outspoken and a champion at ending the war in Yemen and so on. And of course, so much has shifted in the U.S. as Biden has become the presumptive nominee and the U.S. is being ravaged by coronavirus. Do you see any indications, or do you feel hopeful that Biden will stick to these promises of breaking the U.S. relationship with Saudi Arabia? How different do you think the Biden administration might be in terms of Saudi Arabia than the Trump administration has been? And do you think a Biden administration would be helpful in the plight of political prisoners such as your father?
Well, at least the hope now is that supporting Saudi Arabia became something shameful. Became not. It's not the bipartisan support. Saudi Arabia does not enjoy the bipartisan support that it used to have for both from both parties. So with the Trump backing all the way to MbS with Jared Kushner there, I think everybody is going to be less harmful to the human rights situation in Saudi Arabia than Trump. But does that mean it's going to be good? We are very hopeful, optimistic. I hope so. I think at least I was hoping that Bernie Sanders will win. He will be the best candidate, at least in the Saudi issues. But Biden also not so bad. At least I think from now, from what I see and how he dealt, it's going to be really hard for him to veto at least what Congress. Now you see there are a few Congress bills to pressure Saudi Arabia, even during Khashoggi, to apply the Magnitsky Act, to stop arming Saudi Arabia, killing Yemeni people. Trump vetoed all these, and I think if Biden were there, he wouldn't have vetoed these bills, at least. So that's the basic, that's at least the bare minimum that we can have from Biden that Trump is not doing. The not vetoing what Congress. I mean, now Congress, we haven't seen, at least for decades, such such at least courage towards Saudi Arabia from Congress as we do now. There are people who are still, you know, supportive of the Saudi government. You're always gonna have these people, but at least we have seen some courage in criticizing Saudi Arabia, its practices, and the killing of Khashoggi was a climax of these efforts. And with all that, you remember when Trump supported MbS and backed him, and he said he's a friend, and he called the King of Saudi Arabia, King Salman, he said, my friend.
Well, Trump just called MbS his good friend again. He just recently in one of his coronavirus briefings, he said, oh, and my friend MbS, he's got problems with coronavirus too, and, you know, referred to him as a good friend.
Well,
and that was just maybe 2 days ago.
That's so sad. Yeah, I want to tell him that, well, your friend killed my friend at the consulate, at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, and your friend banned 17 members from my family from travel. Your friend is harassing me here in the US. Your friend is trying to kill my father in Saudi Arabia, and your friend is trying to harass human rights defenders and economists, scholars, and the people of Saudi Arabia. Well, I think the whole friendship is based on the purely transactional, measures. It's not principles. It's not, and I think we all know that from the very beginning when Jared Kushner, built that relationship with this new. They thought, well, Jared Kushner was young and he's the son-in-law of the president, and this guy is the son of the king, and he is young, and they are in the same age, so they play games, and they thought, well, from playing games, they can just agree to the higher game, which the Game of Thrones, that Jared Kushner was on board when MbS did all the atrocities in the past 2 years.
So I want to really, really thank you for joining us. And as we close, if you can tell our viewers how to follow you on social media and how to access your work and support your advocacy for the people of Saudi Arabia, for your father, and people of Yemen.
Well, thank you so much for hosting me. It was really, really pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. And we look forward to doing so again. And we will let folks know how to support your work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.